All right, Rosh Chodesh Sameach! All right, Rosh Chodesh Sameach for Cheshvan. All right, welcome to our new moon service, okay? This is our Rosh Chodesh service. So just for those in case you are new and not understanding how we do these things, so we do try to find the time that makes the most sense for us to get together within the 24 hours of the new day for the first of the month. So it's after sundown, so that means that tomorrow actually is the first of the month, but it begins actually tonight or after sundown. You know, there will be times in the summer when sundown is like closer to 9 o'clock at night that we would do this before the sun ended at the end of the day. So we'll be there towards the end of that same first day of the month. All right, Scripture does not give us instruction on what to do for Rosh Chodesh. It does say to celebrate the new moon. Okay, so we're doing that absolutely today, okay? And so for those of you that are watching that are new, we're going to have a brief, and when I say brief, I mean really like 10 minutes, a brief Rosh Chodesh service followed by a maybe not so brief comments from me. I don't know. I haven't thought about what I'm going to say yet. So we'll see how that goes. It's always fun and interesting, but it's always meant to be encouraging you as you go forward, now forward looking into the next new moon, the next month, okay? All right. So I see everybody's pretty much already standing up, so we'll all rise. We'll begin with the sounding of the silver trumpet, and after we sound the silver trumpet, then the rest of the stuff will be read off the screen, which we will read together, except the one slide where I officially announce the new moon, okay? So again, all rise for the silver trumpet. Amen. Amen. All right, so we're going to read off the slides. From Psalm 51, verse 15. Yahweh sefatai tivtach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Yahweh, open my lips, that my mouth declare your praise. May the expressions of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer. From Numbers 10:10. Also in the day of your gladness and in your appointed times and in the beginnings of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your Elohim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Kedushat Levanah, the sanctification of the new moon. O Yahweh, our Elohim and Elohim of our fathers, make this coming month one of good and blessing. Grant us long life, a life of peace, of good, of blessing, of sustenance, of vigor. A life marked by a reverence for you and a dread of sin. A life free from shame and reproach. A life of prosperity and honor. A life in which love of the living Torah and the fear of Elohim animates us. A life in which our heartfelt desires are fulfilled for good. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Amen. He who performed miracles for our fathers and liberated them from slavery to freedom, may he quickly liberate us and gather our exiles from the four corners of the earth, and let us say, Amen. All right, the new moon of the month of Cheshvan is today. May it prove to be good and fruitful for all 12 tribes of Israel. May the set-apart one, blessed be he, grant this Rosh Chodesh to us and to all his people, for life and peace, for gladness and joy, for deliverance and consolation, and let us say, Amen. Together, blessed, praised, glorified, honored, and exalted be the name of the King of Kings, the set-apart one, blessed be he, who is the first and the last, and beside him there is no Elohim. Extol him in the heavens, Yahweh is his name, rejoice before his face. His name is honored beyond all blessing and praise. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever. Let the name of Yahweh be blessed forever and ever. from Isaiah 66, verses 22 and 23. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from Rosh Chodesh to Rosh Chodesh, from Shabbat to Shabbat, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahweh. Amen. Rosh Chodesh Sameach. All right, you may be seated. And for anybody that came in late, make sure your phones are silenced. All right, let me turn mine just on here from some. I actually wrote a couple of quick things I could talk about that came to mind. I was talking to my daughter, Brianna, just came up with a few thoughts. So as we get started, I do want to just wave out there to Rebbitzin. She's down in Florida right now, okay? And just keep her in prayer. I mean, it's been a very emotional trip for her. She's going down there to see about, her father's stuff and her stuff that's at her father's house. Just being there and without him there and everything could be very challenging. And so she's had a few other things that came up along this trip that also were emotionally challenging. So just kind of keep her in prayer that she would have the strength to do the things she needs to do while she's down there. I mean, it's really tough, okay? And give me the strength to not just jump on a plane and go down and just rescue her. So, and if I need to, I will. But, we'll see how that goes. Which is funny because that's what my daughter called me to say, Dad, you want to just go down there, put on the hero cape and go rescue Mom? I said, oh, well, she just got there. Okay, if she needs me, I will. All right, well, that's a daughter for you. But that's also a daughter who sees her dad as having a cape that can go rescue somebody. Thank you, Brianna, who's also watching online. All right, so Rosh Chodesh is a time when we have these markers of time, right? Rosh Chodesh is a marker of time. Okay, Rosh means head. Chodesh is the moon. Okay, so it's a turning of the moon or the renewing of the moon. Okay, and so we have these markers of time. And the reason we have them is because we have certain things that we have to do that happen at certain set apart times. Okay, so the moons help us to know when we celebrate different feasts. Okay, and so we keep track of them so we know where we are in time. Now also, every time we go through a Rosh Chodesh, I always remind us that with these markings of time, we have a few things that have happened each time that happens. Okay, every time we have a marker of time, that means things have already happened. We have a past, we have a present moment, and then we have a future, right? This is a point in time. So if we look at it from the point of view of a month, well, the last month is now history. And then the new month hasn't happened yet, and we're looking forward to that, right? You could do that with every day. You could do it every week. You could do it every year. They're all markers of time. You could do it from feast to feast, right? We just completed one, right? Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret. We just finished one. And now we got this kind of, at least where we are in the layout of this planet, we are now in winter. We're heading into late fall, going into winter. All right, well, with fall going into winter, it goes all the way to spring before we get to another holy day. Yes, we have Hanukkah, not a holy day. Yes, we've got Purim, not a holy day. But then we get to the holy days. So we got this long period of time between this marker of time, which was the Sukkot marker, going towards the Pesach marker. And of course, we have a few Rosh Chodeshim between. Okay, you have a few of these that are between, all right? And so this one is Cheshvan. And now, we always talk about that when we get to these markers, we should be looking back at what already occurred to make sure that we learned whatever we were supposed to learn in that period of time. What'd you learn over the last month? Of course, the last month was a little bit interesting because last month was the month that had all these holy days in it. So it's not your normal month. You don't normally have a month that has so much time spent. You had trumpets, atonement, and Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret all within Tishrei. There's a lot going on. And so, let's make sure that we're taking the opportunity to look back. I want you to do a couple of things, though, because one of the things I noted when I talk to people lately is that there tends to be this problem where we either lose momentum or we get discouraged or because I'm trying to figure out why that all happens. I think a lot of it is because we are distracted and we miss out on paying attention to all the good things that happen. I don't want to sound like Zig Ziglar, but we need an attitude of gratitude. We need a check up from the neck up. All right? So if you don't know who Zig Ziglar is, well, you're lost. You're going to have to go look him up. All right? From Yazoo City. Okay, so, the thing is, the opportunity we have is to not just looking forward, etc., but let's assess the past properly. I don't know if I talked about that much in these Rosh Chodesh meetings, but, let's look at it properly. There was, I promise you, something good in that last 30 days. There were good moments. There were good lessons. There were good experiences. Okay? There were also things that weren't so good, but that's where maybe some of the good lessons came from. But if we can only focus on the things that didn't go so great or went badly or this, then you're going to look back and go, man, that was a lousy month. Well, maybe it wasn't the best one ever, but I'm sure you got something out of it. But actually, I'm not sure you did, because if you didn't pay attention, then you might not have. Those are very, very critical missed opportunities. Okay, so what you should do at these markers of time is go back and look at the previous time, so that would be the last month, and ask very useful questions. Tony Robbins likes to talk about, you want to improve the quality of your life, you got to improve the quality of your questions. Okay? Instead of asking, what could go wrong, how about asking what could go right? Okay? Instead of pointing blame, look for solutions. But it all starts with better questions, like, what could I do to fix this? Instead of going, who do I need to blame for it happening? Better questions, better quality of life. So some of the better questions would be looking back and go, okay, what did I learn in the last 30 days? What wonderful, good things happened in the last 30 days? I'm sure you can point to at least one or two things. Maybe a whole lot of things. Maybe it was a good month. Okay? And so how did I grow? Did I grow at all in the last 30 days? And by the way, if you're asking the question and the answer is no, that's still good to know. Because then you could ask the next question is, well, then why? Why didn't I grow? Okay, if your answer is yes, you can say, wow, I grew. That's good. How did I do that? I want to do more of that. Keep asking good questions. I think I've said this a tremendous amount of times to you guys, but I really want you to become, I don't want you to become these narcissistic, self-possessed, narcissist as in the classic, not the idea of, like people like to throw around, but just people that just love themselves. I want you to be incredibly curious about yourself, though. The best way to have, or at least to give yourself the best chance at really growing and improving, is to be really aware of you. What do you do well? What do you struggle with? What are the challenges? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Pay better attention to you. But that also means you have to ask better questions. So you don't just look for all the bad things. I messed that up, and I missed this opportunity, and I did this, and how about looking at all the good things? There were good things. Maybe you had 2 happy days. Good. Try to have 3 next month. Build on it. Let's go. Momentum. All right? And so I want you to really be asking better questions when you look back. And then, of course, after assessing the information, the data from the past, you want to then say, okay, how do I take that information and make sure that 30 days from now when we have another Rosh Chodesh, that this 30 days was better than the last one? What can I do to improve upon the last 30 days? What can I do to grow more, to be more self-aware, to improve in the 7 areas of life that I've talked about so many times? You can't grow in anything if you're not aware of where the problem is. Do you understand that's part of why teachers in school, all the time you went through school, give you an exam? So you can know where you are. See, I know we always feared them because it was about judging you as you're an idiot or you're a genius. No, it has nothing to do with that. A lot of it's really about, did you understand the material? Okay? We've turned into a society that cares way too much about grades. We should actually, I learned this, it's really funny how this came out. I learned a really interesting lesson when I took a water safety life-saving course. Let me think. No, it wasn't the water safety course. It was the life-saving course. So when I took the life-saving course, the teacher said, this is not about grades. He said, every one of you is going to get 100. We're all like excited. He goes, because you're going to keep doing it until you get 100. Because if that person in the water is having an issue that you got a 40 on, you're going to have a problem. I love that idea. Why not always, don't worry about the grades. You're going to keep doing it till you get it. I think that's a brilliant way to go about it, okay? Why wouldn't you want to get out? Do you want to go to your doctor and find out that the issue that you have, that your doctor got kind of a pass, barely grade in that? You know, yeah, that's the one I got a D in with all my A's, but, okay? So if we make it about competency, see, I want you to look at, anything that you haven't gotten the competency where it needs to go, these are things to work on. But don't beat yourself up for not being there. Well, you don't understand, Rabbi, I've been working on that for 45 years. Well, then why not figure out why you're not making progress? There's a reason, okay? The reason is that you do not have a compelling reason to fix the problem, okay? If you have a compelling reason, you fall into the category of where there's a will, there's a way. Problem is you don't have a strong enough will to do it, overcome it, fix it, whatever it is. Because if there's a will, there's a way. Well, I have the will, I just haven't found it yet, but don't quit. Keep going, you'll find it. As long as you don't quit. But you're going to have to make the effort. And don't just keep making the effort in something you already know doesn't work. Well, I just keep doing this. Yeah, and it didn't work. So why do you keep doing that? Do something different. Because you keep expecting, well, if I could just do this, it's supposed to work, then it'll work. But it's not working for you, so let's do something different. Figure out what works for you. I get up in front of the mic, and I live out loud, okay? So whatever I'm doing, I share a lot from the microphone. But I want everybody to understand, if you ever hear me talking about something I'm doing health-wise, fitness-wise, some other thing-wise, that's just stuff to encourage you to figure out what would work for you. What I'm doing may not work for you. I'm just letting you know that I found something that works for me. What works for one person may work for you, may work for lots of people, but it may not. You may have some things going on that just makes your situation slightly different. You might need to either tweak what's going on, or you might just have to do something completely different. But you have to understand that you got to figure out you. Okay, don't just go, well, this other person did this. Unless they've got similar situations to yours, it may not work for you that way. Figure that out. All right, now, so you're looking at the past, you're evaluating, right? And from the evaluation or assessment, we talked about this in the Level Up classes, all of you who are watching, it's free. It wasn't free before, now it's free. It's on the M2OI website, and as well as the YouTube, from the feast, okay? And Tommy, is that stuff on the site now? Okay, so all of the classes are on the site from I did the classes now 3 times. There's class 1, 2, and then the one at the feast. They cover 6 sessions each time, going over the first I called it the 6 areas of life because I combined a couple of them together, but it's 7 that we do. Go back and look at that stuff. Watch the classes. Learn how to deal with your relationships, your finances, your spiritual stuff, your psycho-emotional stuff, your community, living. I mean, all the things that make you, the stuff you need to work on. And try to, the first step you got to do is assess. You got to know where your starting point is. I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm going to assume that every one of you has been to a doctor. At least once. And I'm going to assume that when you did, the doctor who saw you for the very first time gave you an exam. And they wanted to see things like your blood pressure, which, well, by the way, Maureen, mine was 118/68 at the dentist the other day. All right. So, but they're going to take your blood pressure. They're going to do other things to evaluate you. They may recommend, if you're going to be working with them, to do some blood work to see where your markers are and different things and get a sense of your health. I mean, there's lots of things that they might do. Why? Because they need information to know what we're working with. What are your numbers and your markers and your measurable things at this moment in time? Because all you have is this moment in time. Now, of course, the previous moments in time got you to this place. Okay, so if you have some health issues, it could be because of health choices you made previous to today. If you have financial problems, it could be because of choices previous to today. This came up in a conversation today, so nobody that has nothing to do with the ministry, but just came in a conversation I had with somebody. I have to tell you, and maybe you're going to think I am a really horrible person, cold-hearted, horrible person, but I'm going to tell you something right up here, all right? If I find out that somebody is in really poor finances, health, or relationships or something, and I know that it was because of choices, not because of not choice. Like, in other words, it wasn't something that was out of their control. I don't shed a tear. No matter how awful they might look, I'll be sad for the situation. I'm not crying for you if you made your choices and that's who you are. I will be sad that you made wrong choices. So please understand that doesn't make me a horrible person, okay? Because you are responsible for where you end up. Now, I'm not saying, for example, the person that's living in some real backwoods third world place with no floors on there and no running water and no indoor plumbing, what are they going to do? Okay, I get that. But I'm talking about if you're in a place like the U.S., you've got total opportunity, total control to really work on most things. There are some exceptions of people that have circumstances that make that tough. But most of you can make better choices to end up in a better place. Relationships, finances, health, whatever, okay? Mental health, too. You can go get help. And so when you come crying to me, I'm not going to cry with you. I'm just going to look at you like, well, you did this. Oh, no, it was the economy and the president and my parents, and we grew up in the wrong city and the wrong... No, you didn't. Stop that. Because I promise you, it wouldn't be hard for me to find somebody who did exactly what you did, grew up where you grew up, who did just fine. All right? I mean, remember, you're the one that chose to eat, 3 bags of potato chips every night, or equivalent thereof, okay? You're the one who chose not to exercise. You're the one who chose not to pay attention to your bills and have a budget. You're the one who chose not to get a better skill set for a better career. You're the one you made all these choices. Well, you don't understand. I grew up in a mining town, so you could have moved to a different town. Lots of people do. Do you realize that you're free to move in this country? There's no restricting you from getting, but I can't afford to. Maybe you can't afford not to. And by the way, can I just say something? It just occurred to me. All of you say, well, I can't afford to. Have you never, come on, be honest now, have you never done anything you couldn't afford? So please, don't waste your breath on that. Not with me. Well, I can't afford to move there. I can't afford to do, but you do things you can't afford all the time. So why not this? Because it's an excuse. Right? And Elder says excuses are for you. So don't give them to me. Don't give them to him. Well, I can't afford. Maybe you can't afford not to. Figure it out. Because people do stuff they can't afford all the time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any plastic out there. You guys all with your credit cards, that's so that you can get things you can't afford. Okay? So don't tell me you can't afford. But you know what? After assessing things, and you get all this information, I didn't say it this way necessarily in Level Up. You got to own what you just assessed. You got to own that that's you. That's your finances, that's your health, that's your spiritual walk, that's your relationships, that's your mental health, that's your community living. That's you. That is yours. Is this going to be the month where you decide to own it? Maybe it's the month where you decide to even evaluate it, assess it. Get the information. Look yourself, honestly in the mirror. Look in the mirror honestly and go, my relationships are not great. What part of that is me? My finances are jacked up. What part of that is me? My health is not where I want it to be. What part of that is me? What did I do, and what can I do now to make it different? Short of things that you were born with a defect or even terminal things, there are people out there healing and curing almost everything. I'm not claiming I know the answer to how to do all that. I just know it's happening. Oh, but that would be too much work for me, or too much this, or I can't afford to do that program. Okay, then be sick and die. I don't know what else to tell you. Or have your relationship be sick and die, and the relationship will die. Or your spiritual walk will die. Okay? I'm sorry, you're not allowed to say it. Or your spiritual life will unalive. And your health will unalive. And your finances will unalive. Who made this politically stupidity up? You can't say somebody's going to kill somebody. It says they'll unalive them. Okay. I'm trying to alive you. You want to talk about revival? This is revival. Wake up! I want to smack you alive. Pour some cold water in your face. All right, so as you're doing all this, my main point is that you should have, okay, this is my telling you what should have happened through Tishrei. You should have gotten some momentum, okay? You should have gotten some motivation that gave you some momentum, at least spiritually, okay? Because you went through trumpets, atonement, and Sukkot, and Shemoneh Atzeret. You went through 4 things in a month. Really, you got that all done in 15 days, all right? Well, I guess 15 to 26, so 22 days, 21 days, 22 days, right? So I'm just saying is you did all that. But you quickly lose your momentum because you have the post-feast blues. Oh, I got to go home back to the real world now, and life is waiting there to kick me in the mouth. Why don't you go show up back home ready to grab life by the whatever and make it do what you want, all right? I think that we have given up our personal power, okay? Tony Robbins has a great program called Personal Power. That's actually how I found out about him back in the 80s. He was infomercial. He had an infomercial for that program. He still sells it on his website, and it's funny. If you go and listen to it, it's the audio tapes from the 80s. Now it's digitized, but it's still the same. So like you'll hear him saying, okay, now flip over the tape to side B. Okay, it's like in the audio. But I think a lot of us have, without a fight, given up our personal power. You've yielded to the world just sort of pulling you and pushing you and just kind of, it's almost like you fell into a reasonably fast moving or whatever, at least moving stream or river and just sort of floating along. Instead of deciding, I don't want to go that way. And realizing that you can swim to the shore, you can get out of the water, you can do whatever you want. We've all kind of given up on that power. So how do we lose momentum? What happens, okay? So I think what happens is, we have these verses that talk about this thing that we should be concerned with, which is growing weary in so doing. Right? We're all familiar with the verse. Every church talks about it. A lot of other things they don't talk about, but everybody talks about, don't grow weary in so doing. So doing what? I would like to ask them, but anyway. But for you guys, it can be anything. Anything worth having, you can grow weary in so doing. So why does that happen? Well, it could be because the so doing gets tedious. It's arduous. It wears you out. And by tedious and arduous, I mean you're not getting the ultimate result you want quick enough because it's a long process. And so we can grow weary in so doing. There's story after story, Elder can tell you them, I could tell you them, of people that have become incredibly wealthy by putting away just $50 a month. But they did that every month without missing one for 50 years, 40 years. Put it into an investment and just put it away and put it away, whether it's 50 or 100. It's not a lot of money. And it's not going to get a very big result in the first 30 or 40 years as it's compounding and growing. But we don't see that quick result. We can grow weary in so doing. Because the doing can get, now I'm not saying it can get tedious. It can become arduous and just a burdensome thing. So how do we fix that part of it? Well, number one, okay, is you have to figure out a way to find internally. You have to generate a stronger passion for why you're doing what you're doing. You got to be passionate about it, okay? If you're not passionate about it, you're not going to do all the tedious things. And it is tedious. It can get that way. All right, I've talked about some of the things that I've done of late. One of them was health-related wise, and you can see I've lost some weight. I'm doing pretty good there. But the thing is, I've studied so many videos and found so many, we'll call them thought leaders in the area that I'm studying. I don't want you looking for gurus and this and that. Find thought leaders, people with really good ideas and proof that their ideas actually work and that they've done them themselves. But you know what? It can get a little tedious having to watch that much stuff or read that much stuff and research that much stuff just to make sure that you're not just hearing one guy's voice or one person's voice and that's it. You know, I'm doing some looking into the markets, a little bit of how can I want to be able to help you guys maybe with small amounts be able to invest in some way. So I want to do it myself so I can teach people to do that too. How do we deal with the markets? Because a lot of times, believe it or not, there are people that will come to me and saying, look, I've got an extra $5,000 or $10,000, which is not a tremendous amount of money because that's, if you had to live on it, it would last you like, what, 2 months, 3 months? I mean, it's not a lot of money. But for you, who maybe never had that kind of money, you know, maybe you inherited a little bit of money or something happened, and you want to know what's the right thing to do with this. So I'm trying to come up with a great answer. But you know what? To find that great answer, there is an almost unlimited amount of material I could look at. And that could get tedious. If I'm passionate enough, though, I'll plow through it. I'm not just going to look at the first thing and think that's the answer. I'm going to go find and see if anybody else agreed with the person that I just listened to in their answer. And guess what? And maybe not the first person I listen to, but if I'm listening to enough people, I'll find out they don't agree. But there may be a few things that they all seem to be in line with, and that might be things that I might say, that might have some value. They all seem to be saying this little piece of the puzzle. They don't agree on these other things, but they agree on this one. So that might, I didn't say it was, it might be the answer or a piece of the answer. Kind of like we talk about in Scripture, we want to have 2 or 3 witnesses that agree to establish something. Well, in the Scripture, you don't have the unlimited amount of people you could be listening to on YouTube, for example. And we all go to YouTube for everything, so, you know, okay. And yet, it could be tedious. It's work. Okay? When I get excited about something, I will listen to, watch, and pay attention to hundreds of hours of stuff. Hundreds. No, probably thousands of videos, because some of them are only 8 or 10, 15 minutes long, as they kind of get a little snippet of something. But that's because I have a passion for something, so I'm willing to do what might look like the tedious work. Life is a journey. It's a fairly long journey, hopefully, for most of us. The results you're looking for don't come instantaneously. And so you need to put the work in every day. But you're not going to put the work in every day if you don't want it bad enough. That's the part of the problem. You have to want it. It's a passion problem. See, that's why Tony Robbins' big thing is to tell everybody, live with passion. That's how he finishes every one of his tapes in the personal power thing. A lot of his conferences, he always says, live with passion. Well, if you're not going to be passionate, what's the point anyway? Well, but life is so blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Find something about it you can be passionate about. How about just being passionate about making it as good as it can be? Light a fire in there. You need the passion, okay? You have to have passion for where you're going and why you're going there. I mean, yeah, you can show up here. You know what? And some of you, when you first move here, you're excited. Some of you watching who are not here today, you have good reasons why you weren't able to get here today. I understand that. But some of you could have been here, and the only reason you're not here is because, you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. Okay, you can get jaded, you can get complacent, you can get weary in so doing. But when you first show up, you might have a lot more passion. I'm coming to everything. I'm going to go to everywhere. I'm going to always be at you know what I'm saying? There's an excitement. How do you lose that? Because you grow weary. Because the initial excitement had that it was the fuel that drove you, but then we didn't keep that fuel going because you weren't so excited anymore. If you're going to be married, you better figure this out or you're not going to be married that long. Because guess what? The excitement of the person that you kind of met and you kind of thought, hey, I'd like to be with you all the time, and you thought being with them all the time would be great until you realize it's not always great. I'm not picking on anybody. Being married is not always great. You better know that before you get in. That doesn't mean you shouldn't get married. You're going to have moments where it's not always great. But if you have enough passion and enough reasons to be with that person, all these things that you love about them and that you want to be, that's enough to get you through those not so great moments. You understand? Because I promise you, if anybody you know that's been married more than 5 minutes tells you that life is always wonderful and perfect in their marriage, they're not married. Okay? I'm not saying they have horrible times. I'm just saying it's not always great. I didn't say it was awful. It's just not always great. But in the beginning, you get all excited because especially you go on a few dates and everything's great and you're getting all excited about where this could go and the potential for the relationship. But then everyday life gets tedious. It becomes the same old, same old, same old. So you have to find a way to keep it from becoming that. How do you keep from just falling into a mind-numbing routine? Because if life gets that way, you're not passionate anymore. I talk to young people that are like, what's the point? I'm like, my gosh, you're just 18, 17, whatever. You're a young person. Well, there is a point. You can't see it right now. So here's something to help you with some motivators. So I want you to think about, okay, a time in your life. This is easier for older, meaning like teenagers would be a little tougher because they haven't had that much life yet. But even for teenagers, maybe. But think about a time in your life when things were pretty bad, and then they got better at some point. Now, maybe they got bad again, but they did go from not good to better. Now, also think about when they was not good. Did you see it getting better? Or were you at least so at least you were patient enough till it got better, but did you actually see it? Because you might not have been able to see it getting better, but it did. Life gets better, okay? Provided you're optimistic and that you make efforts towards better. At some point, you did something to bring you towards better. But this journey is a long journey. You can't look at it like, well, whatever, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever like window of life you're going to look at has been not great, maybe really not great. That doesn't mean it can't be better. It doesn't mean it can't be great. You have the full power over that. Some of you watching going, he hasn't really mentioned, Yahweh or God or Yeshua, because they're watching us do this. Okay? I want to set you free from a wrong understanding of them. Okay? The Father and the Son, I've said this so many times, will absolutely, I promise you on whatever I can stand on, okay, will absolutely do nothing that you need to do. They will absolutely never do something you can and must do. Stop looking for that. Because what drives me a little bit? When people say to me, well, I had this problem, this, that, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed. Well, I want to know what you prayed. If you prayed for it to be taken away, that's not going to work. Especially if it's something that you need to fix. Stop praying for him to take away things you just don't want to deal with. Why are you praying for that? Because I don't want to deal with it. Because I don't want to have to grow to become the person that overcame that. I don't want to put in the work that's necessary to overcome that. Be honest. He already knows you're not being honest. So why should he fix something that he knows you're just being too lazy to work on because it's too much work? It's too hard. I don't have any problem with you asking for things that you can't do. But I would check myself first to make sure it's something I can't do, not just something I think I can't do. Because a lot of you think that, we lose a lot of people over the years because people just think God doesn't hear them, God doesn't listen, so what's the point of believing in God, blah, blah, blah. Well, because you're asking him for things he's never going to do for you. Okay? He didn't put you here to coddle you and do everything for you. He put you here to see what you would do. I wish you could get that. I know nobody on Sunday's teaching that. Most of the people on Saturday's not teaching that. He put you here to watch you. He wants to see what you'll do with this thing called life he gave you. Okay? The idea of the steward. What are you going to do with this parable of the talents thing, right? What are you going to do with this thing called life? He gave you one talent. It's called life. You have this one life. What are you going to do with it? Some of you haven't done much with it. That doesn't mean you can't start doing something with it. I don't want you thinking, but I'm 70 years old now, and he's probably all disappointed me. No, he's watching you from this moment forward always. He's not holding your past against you. You are. Ooh, that's a good one. I don't believe the Father or the Son is holding your past against you. You probably are, though. Let it go. Own it, repent of it, and move on. He's not holding it against you. He says, okay, with all that stuff that got you to here, now let me see what you do. I want to see what you're going to do after you screwed this thing up pretty bad. What are you going to do now? Are you going to quit? Are you just going to whine and complain? Are you going to become bitter and broken? Or are you going to try and do something? Every moment, no matter where you are in this cycle, he's watching to see what you're going to do. What are you going to do? That's why you're here. You know, I talked to somebody today about some investing things that I was wanting to study, and they said to me, why did you contact us about our program? You know, what are you hoping to get out of this? I said, I want to keep doing more. Do you want to do more? I mean, I'm 62. I could be doing what other 62-year-olds do, start thinking about retirement. I mean, I understand wanting to be done with a certain job, but I would just want to do that so I could do something else. But I'd want to be doing something else that's growing me and challenging me. You know, a lot of the older amongst us are encouraged to do certain types of games and things that challenge their minds, to keep them challenged. Keeps your brain stimulated. It helps you from dealing with some of the challenges of age. Well, if you have something that drives you, if you have purpose, if you have passion, that helps you stay young. You know, they've done studies that show that entrepreneurial endeavors make you healthier. Why would that be? Well, it's not because people are working for themselves, and it's not because they're working less, because they're not. But it's because they have something they're passionate about. So their whole disposition is this instead of this. Okay? They're excited. Excited is healthy. Okay? But if you become weary in so doing, that's not healthy. Your whole body chemistry functions better when you're driven towards something, when you're chasing something down, when you're excited about something. And I got people talking, I'm not excited about nothing. Well, that's your problem. You can find something. You would never hear those words come out of my mouth. I'd bite my tongue off. That's like, I think that's the stupidest thing. I'm not picking on you, but I think that's the stupidest thing you could ever say out of your mouth. Maybe what you're doing right now you're not excited about, but you could find something. Okay? I just don't care about it. I don't know. Well, then you're just going to be that the rest of your life. Enjoy that. Let me know how that's going. Is that working for you? Well, I don't know. I'm unhealthy, and I'm old, and I'm this, and I'm that. So find something to get excited about. I promise you I will find something to be excited about until they put me in a box, if I let them. Okay? I'm serious. What would be what else would you do with this life thing? Not be excited about something? You know, a lot of people die pretty quickly after retirement because they don't have a plan for what they're going to do. You know, both my parents did really well because they both had plans for what they would do with their time. Okay? And you need to have something to do with your time. And that means you have to find something that drives you. Okay? Otherwise, it's this kind of a metaphor, this winter between Sukkot and Passover, this dark, shorter days, less light, blah, 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 can get really weary. It can become tedious. It can wear you out. Why should it wear you out? Go out there and do something. Get worn out by activity. Don't be worn out by emotion. Anybody ever been physically worn out? Have you ever been emotionally worn out? Let's never do that again. Let's work very hard to only be physically worn out. That's healthy. That's good for your emotions. It's good for your hormonal system. It's good for everything about your body and your mind. okay? If you haven't done anything that kind of pushes you physically, if you're still older, young enough and enough health to break a sweat at least, everything we used to do back in the day where we didn't have all these modern, appliances and everything else and helpers, you broke a sweat every day, okay? Some of you are wondering, well, I can't eat what I used to eat when I was a kid because you ran around and sweated your you-know-what off every day. Now we have kids that are all because they just sit here doing this all day. They're not burning any calories. They're not sweating. They're not running around. They're not doing anything. And we lived on junk. Our parents didn't know. We lived on mac and cheese and pizza and whatever, okay? But we didn't, we were running around like crazy people, burning it up. And now we sit. I gave up sitting. I mean, not that I never, like if you go in my office, I have an up and down desk, I have a chair. That chair never gets used, it's got papers on it, okay? Elder can tell you, I never sit. I just realized that's like, it's like, that's the equivalent, like still smoking or something. Like it's so unhealthy if you just sit all the time. No, I don't. I stand. I stand up here teaching. I'm standing the whole service. Some of you are like, man, we're standing so long with this or that, and I need to sit. I don't need to sit. Some of you say, well, you leave the room. And I go in my office, and I'm also working on tweaking the sermon, and I'm standing. Okay? And don't sit. Since I got up this morning, I have not sat down. Not once. I'm moving. Why did I do that? Because I found out it was healthier. So when you find something out, are you putting it into use? I'm giving you lots of stuff you're finding out tonight. Some of it you never knew before. Go put it to use. All right? I want you to go put it to use. What else did I write down here? All right, so you get to these places where you get sort of fatalistic and like, what's the point and all this other stuff. So what I need you to do is, first of all, how about appreciating what you have? Okay? It's really hard to be depressed and in any kind of a negative space if you're in a place of appreciation. And maybe you just need a perspective shift to realize you have more than most. I don't care how broke you are in this country, you have more than most. I could take you some places I've driven through, and I've not been in the way some people have, but at least I've been in countries where I've got to drive past it and through it and see what it was like as part of just driving between places. Yeah, you got it real good here, okay? The worst situations here are better than a lot of places. And you know what? You're alive still, which means you still got more things to do, okay? I used this analogy with somebody today. I don't know if it plays out real well, but imagine you had scratch-off tickets, lottery tickets, right? Scratch-off tickets. And scratch-off tickets are fun and cool from the point of view that a certain percentage of them do win, even if they don't win a lot. I mean, if you get a bunch of them, you're going to probably win one or two of them, and they're going to maybe just get you enough to buy a couple more or pay for what. But it's not a lot, but you're going to get some winners. And then possibly in there's some real big winners. I'm not suggesting you do this. I'm making a picture here. I'm giving you a metaphor. Now, every day of your life, if you are optimistic, you get a scratch-off ticket to scratch off. Hey, maybe something great's going to happen today. Maybe I'm going to meet somebody. My relationships are going to improve a little bit. Maybe I'm going to find out an idea that changes everything. Maybe I'm going to get a raise in my job. Maybe something's going to open up a door. Because I don't know what that ticket's going to say. Now, you get these every day, 365 days for like 80, 90 years. Do the math. That's a lot of scratch-off tickets. Guess what? If I gave you that number of tickets, like actual real tickets, a bunch of them would be winners. Maybe not as many as you paid for, whatever, whatever. But I'm saying, but there'll be a bunch of winners in there. But if you never wake up with some optimism to grab the thing and scratch it off, you'll never know, would you? And I got young people like, I don't know, what's the point? I'll never afford to live on my own to do this. And everything's so expensive. I'll never own a house. Well, then you never will. Or you could be optimistic that you'll figure it out, that you'll do what you need to do. Scratch off the ticket. Scratching off the ticket, the picture there is that you're going to wake up and say, I'm going to make the effort today. Or maybe I should say you scratch that ticket off in the morning, but you don't get to see the result till the night. okay? Or maybe you don't even get to scratch it until you've had a good day. I mean, a good day of effort. At the end of the day, you had a good day of effort, here's a ticket. You just don't know. But if you had enough years in your life, you know you've had some amazing days. Don't tell me you haven't had some amazing days. You have. Okay? If you're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, for sure you can tell me about some amazing days you had. Maybe not as many as you wanted, but you did. And if they were over the age of 18 or 19, well, if you quit on life that early, then you would have never got to those amazing days. I'm not saying if you unalived yourself. Okay, and I'm not mocking that. I'm saying if you just quit on life, didn't try, you might not have gotten to those amazing days. You understand what I'm saying? Because those amazing days came out of some effort that put you in the right place at the right time so that you could be able to have that amazing day. And your attitude was in the right attitude. And your optimism was in the right optimism. You understand what I'm saying? The right levels. But are you going to wake up and want to scratch off that ticket every day? And some of them are losers. Sometimes you scratch it off, it's like, nothing. All right? It is what it is. I promise you there are winners in there. You know if you went and bought 100 scratch-off tickets right now, there'd be a bunch of winners in there. Maybe not enough to pay for the tickets, but there would be winner ones. There's no way you get 100 tickets and there's no winners in it. That's the way they do business. Okay? Now, maybe you spent $20 on tickets and you only got $10 worth of winners, but they're winners. That's your life. You're going to have winning days. Guess what? You get to have a higher percentage of winning days when your attitude's better, your effort's better, your passion is greater. Then you start actually making things come up winners. They start aligning for you. Not because of some magical, law of attraction thing or whatever, but because you actually start setting things in motion that make things happen for you. Tony Robbins, I quoted him a lot, one of my favorite teachers. He used to say that, and he probably got it from somebody else. A lot of this stuff, they teach and they got it from whatever. He said, look, luck is simply preparedness and opportunity meeting at the same time. See, a lot of you miss opportunities because you weren't prepared. Then you look at other people and go, man, that person's so lucky, or that woman, she's so lucky. Well, no, maybe she was just prepared when that moment came to take the opportunity. I think you would cry pretty hard if God would just show you all the opportunities that were right there in front of you that you missed, that you didn't take advantage of because you weren't ready. You weren't prepared. Not because you didn't have something that you had was outside your control, things you could have been ready for if you had made the effort. Things you could have been ready for, prepared for, so that you could take the opportunity when it showed up, okay? I want you to understand this I'll use wealth, financial wealth as sort of the example here, okay? Financial wealth. There's a lot of guys out there that teach, and I can tell you right now, it is immensely harder to make that first 100,000 or million than to make the second, third, fourth one or 10 million or anything else. It is real easy to make $100 million. It's real easy to make $50 million. It's really hard to make the first $1 million. And why do I say that? Because there are so many opportunities that could pop up that you can't take advantage of if you don't have money sitting ready to take advantage of it, okay? Years ago, this really kind of hit me in a bigger concept, is that there was some really amazing property for sale, commercial property, big strip mall in either Chattanooga or Ottawa, okay? With a Planet Fitness and all kinds of, just this tremendous property. The rent was paying all the rentals that were going on was more than enough to pay the mortgage. The property was great for sale. The guy who just owned all these properties was just selling them, but you had to have the money to go ahead and pull the trigger on the deal. Somebody made a lot of money on that deal and got a great piece of property because they had the preparedness for when the opportunity showed up. That's the same thing, by the way, with every area of your life, not just finance. But you notice that someone would have to work to the point where they had enough money to buy this thing for multi-million dollars that it was. It was lots of money for this property. It was $60 or $70 million, okay? And that was a steal. But you're thinking, oh, that's crazy. Well, that's because you can't think that scale, because right now you can't pay your bills. But what if you got to the place where first you could pay your bills, then you had some extra money, then you started having your money make some money, and you started scaling up? You know, there's lots of guys out there, for example, in doing the stock market trading stuff that I was looking into, who are like saying, well, look, I make $5,000 a month. I make $10,000 a month. And they can. But you have to have a big enough account so that you can do the scale of it. Okay? So if there's a stock that they're recommending, for example, whatever it is, and that stock goes up $5, if you own one share, you made $5. If you had 1,000 shares, you'd made $5,000. So a lot of it has to do with scale. All right? So some of you need to figure out ways to kind of start to get yourself growing so that you can then scale things up. Well, I don't think I'll ever be able to buy a house. I don't even know why anybody would want to buy a house. Terrible financial decision. Okay? They lied to you when they told you that's the most important thing in your life, to own this asset called your house that's going to cost you 3 times, well, more than 3 times what you thought you paid for it. So you get your $200,000 house. By the time you pay it off in 30 years, it's $600,000 you paid. Then you find out, well, I could sell it for $600,000. Yeah, but that's really what you paid for it. Okay? And you think, wow, I tripled my money. No, you didn't. But how are you going to scale up to that if you can't even barely pay your rent? So get to the point where you can pay your rent and have extra. Start to scale up. Little steps. But guess what? Doing the little things is often tedious, arduous. It's a grind. Okay? Any of you have ever looked at success coaching that's out there? Every one of them that's actually reasonably good talks about the grind. Does that sound fun? It's not supposed to. You know, but the men are all being told, go out there and just grind, 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 grind. Go out there and grind it out. You have to just get up every day and go. You got to do it. And it's at times brutal and slow, but then eventually it scales and becomes easy. Okay? I did a little paper trade the other day. By the way, you should always do things, you know, without the real stuff first, so you can make sure. And in 5 days, I turned a $310 profit. You might think, well, what am I going to do with $300? It's not that much money. But I did just one contract. Had I done 10 contracts, that would have been $3,000 in 5 days. Scale. Okay, Elder saw the trade. I said, look, I can get out right here. From the 16th to the 21st, 5 days. All right? Now, of course, I could have lost in the trade, et cetera, but I'm just saying is, look at how scale works. Some of you are just struggling at the bottom of the whole deal. Scale up. It gets easier. Okay? Scaling up might mean go get some mental health help. Go get some therapy. Go watch a bunch of stuff that talks about how to deal with whatever challenge you have. Scale it up. Once you learn more about it and figure it out a little bit, it may be easier. Learn about relationships. Learn about your health. I probably watch health videos every day. And I learn, oh, wow, I need to stop doing that. Or, oh, wow, I need to add some of that into my life. I need to eat more of this or less of that. I'm just always wanting to know how I can scale it up. You know, I watch some of the people, I've been doing this a long time. And I watch some of the people that I know for a lot of the years I've been doing this, and some of them are looking a little long in the tooth and starting to fall apart. I don't want to do that. I'm trying to get younger so that I can be as energetically up here, you know, kind of poking you, let's go. You know, come on, let's go, let's go. Let's do it. You didn't want me as your personal trainer. And I was. I've done that, as part of the million things I've done. It's like, come on, you can get one more out. Let's go. Don't give up. All right, but you guys got to find that passion. This is a challenging time between feasts, okay? There's a long time. This is not as short. And listen, Shavuot to trumpets is not as long as this. This is the big one. From Shemini Atzeret to Pesach is the big one. That's the longest period that we have. You're going to have to really work and dig in deep to find that driver, that passion. Why are you even doing this? It's got to be because you can believe in something bigger, in you being something bigger. I mean, after all, aren't we doing this because we believe we can become like him? So that when we are resurrected, we are literally going to be changed into what he is? Well, that's a big belief, isn't it? Is that enough to get you to do some work every day towards that? Let's get away from that Christianity garbage about somehow he's just going to, you died because you came to realize he exists and he's just going to automatically give you whatever. That is not going to happen. You're going to be, Paul says it in Romans 2, you're going to receive according to your works. Are you putting in the work? Everybody you watch out there, whatever it is that you see how great they are at something, because they put in the work. Okay? If you're watching the World Series right now, I don't watch baseball, but I know what's going on, whatever. You see guys who are great, it's because they put in the work. You're watching football, you see you got people who are great because they're doing the work. Whatever you see in business, it's because they're doing the work. If you know people in relationships, they're doing the work. Anybody you see successful, they're doing the work. Okay? Nobody gets anything for nothing. Christianity tries to sell you that, though. It's not really nothing. You just got to at least just claim you believe. You have to actually demonstrate it through your actions, but just, believe, whatever that means. Something for nothing. I'm sorry, back when I started, I was a gym manager and a trainer. It was back in the no pain, no gain type of days. Okay, we taught that. Then we realized that pain actually isn't good. You want to push yourself, but you don't want actual injury, okay? But I used to have a thing. If I woke up in the morning and I didn't have any soreness anywhere, I knew I did not do enough the day before. If nothing was sore, if nothing was a little bit, I know I didn't do enough. That was one of my measuring sticks. Now some of us we just wake up, we're sore. Just trying to move is hard. But have some way to know that you did something, okay? Because back then, I only had that soreness if I did something. Now I have to find other ways to measure if I did something, okay? Actually, praise Yah, I don't have any soreness unless I do something. So I have to go and make sure, do some working, push my body, lift some weights, push against some weights, whatever, do some push-ups, something, do some running, walking, something that's going to make my muscles be like, wow, you did something, okay? But do that in all 7 areas of your life. If your marriage isn't where it needs to be, it's because you're not working at it. Or by the way, it needs 2 of you to work at it, but you got to work at it. Some of you think, well, I got married. It's supposed to work. No, marriage doesn't work unless you work at it. You got to work at it. And don't just think if it's not working without all that work that means that you picked the wrong person. No, there's no perfect person. If you picked them, it wouldn't be work. It's 2 people. I was watching a video the other day. If you get married at 20, that person you're married to is not going to be the same person at 30 or 40 or 50. They're going to change a little bit. So will you. You're marrying every version of them for the next 50 years. Okay? That's why it's work. They're growing, you're growing, they're regressing, you're regressing, whatever it is. Okay? So you're marrying all future versions of them. And they're doing the same with you. That takes a little bit of work. We get married thinking, oh, this person I married is going to be like this forever. No, they're not. I mean, to some degree they will be, but there's going to be parts that are going to be different. Their interests may change. Their passions may change a little bit. I mean, they're going to be a little bit different. That's an adjustment that needs to be made. An adjustment takes effort. Okay? This is going to take work. So anyway, this long-winded, whatever it is, because I think I covered everything on here. All right. What did I say? Appreciate where you are. Okay, when I was talking about appreciating where you are, this is the 3 things I'm going to give you. I like to give you little 3 things. Appreciate where you are, desire where you're going, and enjoy the journey. Okay? Appreciate where you are and how you got here. Because Wherever you are is because everything you did up to this point got you here. Okay? But you have to desire where you're going. All right? And then enjoy the journey. Okay? Because it's going to be a long time till you get to where you're going. So you better enjoy the journey because that's the longest part of all this, is the journey. The journey's the point, okay? Not the destination, the journey. All right? I think it might be one more thing I want to tell you. This came up as a little light bulb thing that came up for me talking to some people recently about marriage and relationships and stuff, okay? I know that a lot of times people get caught up with this idea of need. Well, she doesn't need me, or, well, I don't need him, or I don't need her. You know what? Nobody needs the other person. You don't. You can do this everything that you can by yourself. Marriage only works because you want the other person. So you better be thinking about how you treat the person that you're going to want you. Because you don't think, well, I can't, he can't get rid of me. He needs me. No, he doesn't. And if he does, there's something wrong with him. Well, she can't get rid of me because she needs me. Well, no, she can take care of herself. We're in a modern world. Let's go to understanding that marriage works when you want each other. Divorces happen when you don't want each other. Okay? Stop getting hung up on need. All right? I do not need my wife. I don't. I can function without her. I wouldn't enjoy it as much. You know why I wouldn't enjoy it much? Because I want her. See? It's want that makes the difference. Okay? As long as you both want each other, desire each other's company, each other's presence, each other's whatever, then you got something. Don't get all hung up on, well, you need me. You really don't. You might think you do, but you don't. Remember, need is something that has to happen or you don't survive. Like you need to breathe, right? But you don't need the spouse. It'd be really great, though, if you wanted them, that you desired them. Then you got something, okay? So people like to think it's all romantic. Like you go up to your husband or your wife, you go, oh, darling, I need you so much. No, I want you so much. I'm so glad I have you, okay? And the first time I said this to my wife, after I got that little thing, I said, don't take this wrong when I say I don't need you. Like, I don't need you, like, go away. I mean, I want you. That's so much better. That is so much better. To be wanted and desired, not needed. Okay? You know who needed you? Your children. Because they're not going to survive if they didn't have you in the beginning. But they needed you. Now, when they get older, what do you want? You want them to want you. I want a relationship with you, Dad. I want a relationship with you, Mom. I don't need you anymore. And you got moms crying like, my kid doesn't need me. Good. I mean, praise Yah, they don't need you. But it'd be great if they would want you. And by the way, they'll want you a lot better if you stop treating them like they need you. Because then you're showing them that you don't believe they can take care of themselves. All right? But want them. All right, that's going to wrap it up. I hope that was good and useful for you. If anybody wants to come up and say something, we'll put the podium out. I know Janet, I'm sure, will come up. Especially when I talked about marriage. I know she always likes when I do that, so. That's better. I had it on the wrong angle. We're getting the podium lined up here. If you're online, you can type in some things. We'll give this a couple of minutes.
Hey, Rabbi.
Hey.
Yeah, I really like what you said about wanting your husband or your wife. This is exciting when you want each other. It's so beautiful.
Look, people do not get divorced because they stop needing each other. They get divorced because they stop wanting each other. Okay? Something goes on, something happens that makes them, one or the other or both, stop wanting. All right?
Yes, this is something called fondness, admiration, which is so beautiful when you see that in couples.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. I was very inspired by you, Rabbi, many months ago. I don't even know, maybe a couple of years ago, when you said like like a couple who is walking together. It's like unstoppable. That you have so much momentum, so much energy, so much going. And I wanted to say that I wasn't able to attend all the level up classes, but
But you've been to them before.
yeah, I have. But the ones that I did get to go, the financial one, Rabbi, I wanted to thank you because we've been blessed with my husband and I. We sat together and we looked at everything, all of it, and we made a very good plan. And we feel so strong now. We're both like alignment of what we need to do, like the investment on this, like
Right.
what we need to do, with what Yahweh has given us. And so I do appreciate your encouragement. Like I was driving here and I was telling Andrea, look, I could use 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever we're gonna spend going, coming back, and being here doing a million things. But then I thought, you know what? But we're coming because I know I'm gonna receive a blessing, because I know that I want to support my ministry, because I want to be there. I want to have the community engagement. There is a ton that we receive by just being here.
Right.
And so I appreciate everything that you've shared today with us. And
Well, let me interrupt them.
Yes.
You mentioned the financial class. That's probably one of the drivers that I have, is when I mentioned that I'm doing some things with investing, whatever. I don't want you to think, oh, he's just trying to get rich and whatever. No, I'm trying to get to the place where when you guys ask me, well, first you guys ask, how do I get from being broke? Then what do I do to give you guidance once you're no longer broke? Because then you start saying, now what do I do? What's the next level up? And then we talked about, doing some legacy work, leaving something behind. There's all kinds of other levels in the leveling up finance class. And people will often say, well, what do I do now that I have money excess? What's the best way to do something with this? So I'm working on giving you guys some program ideas, what do you do with the money? All right. We talked about the cash flow quadrants and, getting your money from the left to the right. The left side is employment and trading time for money, either employment or self-employment. The other side is investing in business. And, whether you own a business, I don't mean like self-employed. I mean, own a business where the business is running itself. You just own it. Okay. You have people running it and managing whatever, or investing. Well, then people are going to start asking Elder and I, well, when we get this on a regular basis, I actually have some money. Now what do I do? So I'm trying to come up with the best advice and guidance I can give you with that answer. Even though most of our time is trying to get you to the point where that's now the problem. That's a good problem to have. But most people are still struggling with, how do I get out of debt and pay some bills and get ahead? Okay? But we have some people that are succeeding at that, and now they're like, okay, now what? So that's where I'm at. That's my driver for trying to figure these things out. So I can help people. What do you do with that? Okay?
very good, very good. And it's inspiring just to see that. I also wanted to say that, when you were talking about like this is a long journey or season until Pesach, to me, the way I've seen the transition between Sukkot and Pesach, for me, it's like from here until then, this is where I want to be. To me, it's like I'm just gonna go with it and do it. I have a big project I want to talk to you about later when we can, the two of us. But I have something big that I started last week, and I'm adjusting to it now with the additional things that I need to do for it as I'm creating this program. But I know that I have my goal by March. I want to launch that stuff, and to me, it's like I'm just gonna work, not just work on myself too, because I need to have the balance on the 7 areas, But I appreciate you really bringing the 7 areas, because otherwise we'll just stay with 1 or 2 or 3, and we need to really kind of see everything. And I appreciate the Sabbath too. And
all right, hold on. Let me this is going to confuse people if I don't interrupt for a second.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's be careful with this concept called balance. All right? You don't need balance in 7 areas by having an equal amount of attention to all 7 at the same time. That's really making yourself ineffective in all of them. Okay, focus on any of the ones that are in the worst condition to get them where they're in a healthy enough condition, then figure out what the effective amount of attention that area needs so that it's being effective. Because otherwise, people say, well, how do I maintain balance if I'm like going forward and do it? There is no way to actually, quote unquote, have that kind of balance and be successful. You can't be successful in anything being balanced in that classic way, okay? You have to be out of balance. Because imbalance means you're going to be just mediocre at everything. You're going to give a medium level of attention to everything and not get good at anything, okay? But if you give a ton of focus to something, you might get it where it's working real smooth and doesn't need as much attention, and then you can put more attention on something else. So just be careful of that word balance. Because people say, oh, Rabbi, if you work so much, isn't your life out of balance? Not if I'm not, okay, neglecting my children or my wife with the amount of time that they need. But I have to be aware of what they actually need. And give them, if you give them less time but better time, you realize they don't need as much time as you might think if it's better time. The time that they actually want with you. Okay? Because you may think, well, I'm giving them time, but is it the time that they want and desire? Do you know their love languages? If they need quality time, do they need some acts of service? What do they need, right? Because they don't need as much as you think they do. What they need is better quality amount of time so that then you can then move on and do the other things that need more of your time until you get them running somewhat on autopilot, okay? So I just want to make sure that people understand. Some people are like, how am I going to get all 7 areas of my life? One at a time. Focus on the one that's in the most trouble, that's causing you the most pain. I would say absolutely it's going to be one of 3. It's going to be relationships, money, or health. Okay? And get those things where they're functioning fairly well. All right? And then you don't have to put as much time focus on it. You're just doing the things you learn to do. Because remember, the learning phase, the assessing phase, and the learning phase, and planning phase, and aiming, that all takes a lot of time. But once you get it running, it doesn't take that much time. Okay?
No, and I do appreciate that clarification.
Yeah.
The thing for me is making sure that I'm keeping with my, I would say, daily habit, which is the exercise, the sleep, the nutrition. I've been eating like I am for so long, I don't even think about it. I mean, I know it's a good plan, but the rest I want to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on it so that, because for me it's preventative. It's more than, how am I going to feel if I don't sleep enough, if I don't exercise in 5 years or 10 years. So, but it's also for today.
Okay, so what technique did I teach you guys in the level up for that? What technique did I teach you? Time blocking. Okay? All right, I may not have talked about it for that long a period of time during the feast, but in the actual class. All right? If you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep and that's important, block it out. Okay? You're not going to be consistent in getting the sleep that you want, if that's one of the things you want to make sure to get, if you haven't made a decision, I'm going to go to bed at this time and get this many hours. All right? Or you could be like me. I have a little bit more flexible schedule, so I know how many hours I want, so I simply look at what time it is when I go to bed and set my alarm that many hours ahead. Okay? Now, if I know I have an appointment in the morning, then I try to go to bed a little earlier to try to make sure. But if you have a routine schedule, then you block out that routine. When are you exercising? You said exercise was important. It has to be blocked out. That way it's protected to a certain degree, right? It's not like you can't do something else, but it's blocked out. Okay? Anything important should get blocked out. All right? You got your holy days blocked out. You got your Sabbath blocked out. Okay? If you want to have certain study time or prayer time, whatever that's important to you, block that out. Then you go to your family. What does your husband need? What does your wife need? Whatever, your children, what time do they need that you can block out? Make sure they're getting that, right? Okay? I mean, when my children were younger, I made sure to have father-son dates and daddy-daughter dates. Okay? Where we would just go out and do something. They got an activity and a meal. You want to go see a movie, and we'll go out and eat. You want to go roller skating, we'll go out and eat. You want to go bowling, we'll just do something and have a meal. Okay? But I would block those things out. So made sure that they happen. Okay, now my daughter the whole time sitting there going, but you owe me like 12, Dad. I know, I always told you, just tell me when you want to do them. Okay? But you got to block things out.
Yes, perfect. Okay. Rabbi, yes, clarification question. So when you were talking about this is a long 6 months, like you made it sound like it was.
No, it could be.
It could be. So I couldn't understand that because for me, like I don't see it that way. But I suppose if you don't have a fellowship, that may be hard.
No,
when we were
no.
Okay,
if you don't have a plan, it can be hard. okay? If you don't have a plan, it could be tough. You have to have a plan. Okay, if I know what I'm going to do between now and Passover, I've got something to have my attention for the next 6 months until Passover, okay? So you have to have a plan. Look, I didn't talk about it a lot in this particular level up sessions, these 6 sessions here, but I did in the previous ones, the idea of setting targets. We spent a lot of time on that, or we'll call it goals. You guys like to call it goals. I mean, goals and targets. So where do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish in October? Well, it's almost over. So what do I want to accomplish in November and in December and then January, February, March, and then we get to April and that's Passover. So where do I want to be in the areas that I'm working on? So now I have something to focus on, and so I don't fall as much, I have a lot less likelihood to fall into complacency and tediousness and everything else because I've got a plan. I've got things to do, okay? And so it's when we don't have a plan that we sit around bored like, I don't know what to do with myself, and I'm just bored, and you're on your phone and whatever. I've always got stuff to do, so I don't find myself very bored. All right. As a matter of fact, I find myself having a hard time fitting it all in. Okay. That's not going to get tedious. That's just going to be frustrating because I want to get it all in, Okay. So I got like 7 areas I want to work on, and I want to watch videos and gather all this information on 7 things, and I can't watch 10 videos of each thing at the same time. I have to pick one to focus on at a time because I just, there's only so much. I have to find balancing that out. Okay. But that's not going to lead you the same level of tedious, arduous, right? Because I'm excited. I'm on my journey. I found some passion for something. I'm excited about being somewhere in my areas by January, then by April when we go to Passover, right? Those things I'm like excited about.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi. What was your first name again?
Mindy.
Mindy.
So first I wanted to thank you for the Level Up class. That was like off the charts good, and especially that time management. So this weekend I sat down, I looked at it, I picked out 4 areas that I want to work on, wrote my target, wrote my time, how long it was going to take me, and so one of them was health. I want to lose 20 pounds, and I figured out it's only going to take me 4 hours a week. Like in my mind, I was thinking, so that's going to be about 10 hours, and I make it a lot bigger than it actually is. So,
But hold on. I want everybody to hear that. So the way you can figure this out, though, she said she came to realize that it was not going to take as much time as she thought it would. Realize that when you first start, you're not necessarily going to know how long something takes, which is why you reevaluate on, say, a weekly or monthly or whatever basis, and then you make your adjustments. It's kind of like with your budget. The first time you make a budget, you're guessing to some degree. This is what I'm going to spend on this or this or this, And then once you go through a month with your budget, you realize, oh, I didn't need as much money for this as I thought. I needed more for this than I thought. And then you start to make adjustments. So you'll learn how long something actually takes once you actually start doing it. Some things that you have not been doing, you won't understand how long it actually takes until you do it. All right, and then you adjust. All right,
Yep.
Mindy?
So I wrote out my meal plan, and so I haven't had sugar for 4 days, or bread. And I've been to the gym 3 days. Tomorrow's my 4th day.
Yeah, all right.
So I know it's like really cool.
I've heard of gyms. It's where they have equipment and stuff. I have a membership, but I have to remember how to. I left breadcrumbs one time to get there, but
Well, so I moved into the apartment on purpose because there's a gym there. It's a 4-minute walk. So if I don't get down there, I'm just being lazy.
there you go.
And so the other
You just called me lazy, but I appreciate that.
no, probably not.
No, I'm not lazy, but I'm making too much of a priority on some things that I should be making to make sure I do get to the gym. I do what I can at the house, but I really need to go to the gym. All right, go ahead.
And so the other areas I put together. So I have a business. It's a coaching business, and I put that together with my finances because I think they kind of go together, and spiritual. And those are the only 4 areas.
Right.
And I still had 11 hours left over.
Look at that.
I know, it was crazy.
Look, one of the things, there's a group called Franklin Covey Institute. They had a day planner, called the Franklin Planner, And one of the things that came with the day planner back before they had all these digital ways to do things, was a little audio tape you listen to that made an argument that the more organized you are, the more time you actually have, not less. So once you started blocking things out, you realize, wait a minute, where'd these 11 hours come from that I didn't know I had extra time? Because we waste so much time in our indecision between tasks, between things that we want to do. That's where the 10 hours came from or 11 hours came from. That's time you didn't waste in between going, I don't know, what do I want to do next? Okay? Because you had it already planned. So we're much more effective and efficient when we're scheduled.
Yeah, and the last thing that I just wanted to thank you for is I love how you tell us what you do. And so I want to get to where you are in business and be that successful. And so when you said that you watch 100 videos a week, I was like, okay, so this week I started watching 100 videos, trying to get my message clarified. I was like, oh my gosh, this works.
It does work.
It does work. It's great.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much.
Listen, now thank you for actually being someone who took what I said and started doing it. All right? Because I said a lot of stuff that a lot of people just like, but you took it and you started using it. And by the way, don't miss the point when it comes to like when I said I watched like 100 videos. It's not the number of videos. I have blocked out education time in my day. Now, some of the videos, I could be watching some shorts that are on the topic I want, and they're like really quick, 60 seconds or whatever. I could be watching a 3-hour course. I watched a bunch of those the other day on things I was looking into in terms of options and trading, whatever. There were some people that had some 3-hour, 2-hour, 6-hour courses. I watched the whole course. So that would be equivalent to a lot more videos of lesser length. So it's a matter of how much time do you spend. Every day, okay, I deal with my spiritual stuff. I don't want you to think I don't. But every day, I'm learning every day about my relationship stuff, my health, and my finances. Those 3 areas get some attention informationally every day, okay? I'm always taking in information that will help me with my relationships, my health, and my wealth. Now, how many hours is that? It's based on my schedule and what's available. But I can tell you what, anytime I have free time that my wife doesn't need me, right? She's done with her day because she does a lot of stuff with the YM2I program, whatever, and I'm done with my day. If we need each other's attention, we want to spend some time, whatever, we do all of that. But if we don't, if she's busy with something that she wants to do, I am watching stuff. Like I tell you guys all the time, I don't control the remote. If my wife wants to just watch something to enjoy, I'll let her have the remote. I put a headset on, I put my laptop on, and I'm watching videos. Okay? If nothing else is happening, I'm educating. Okay? I'm always, always learning, and it makes the difference. I'm glad you said that, Mindy, because you saw the difference just in doing this for a little while. Keep doing it for the rest of your life. Never stop learning. Okay? Just don't become a constant just repository of information, don't apply it. But it sounds like you're applying it. You're hearing it and doing it. Hearing it and, oh, where'd that come from? Hear and do. It's scriptural. Okay? All right.
Hi, Rabbi. I appreciate the Rosh Chodesh talk and motivation. I had a thought that came to me, and I just wanted to share it. And I guess it's the difference between being a servant or a son or daughter of Yahweh. I've been to some shops, and there's this specific cafe. The guy goes out of his way to make sure you're welcome. Make sure you're service and aware of the menu options, and goes out of way to provide excellent service. And you know that he has investment in that business, or if he's not the owner, compared to another shop where you can tell they're there just to collect a buck. They're on their phone, they're not paying attention, and my wife and I don't care to go back. And it just dawned on me that you can tell somebody if they're passionate about what they do, that it overflows and that's contagious, and how much that should be in our own lives, that if we're passionate about something, it makes a difference, opposed to be just being a servant.
Amen. Amen. There used to be, I wish it was still there. There used to be a deli, okay, off of Keith and 25th Street. There used to be a deli there, and the guy who owned it, all right, when we started going, when someone told us about it, we met there, my wife and I went there to eat, and we brought the kids with us. Kids were little at the time. This is 10, 12 years ago, and there was a guy that was walking around cleaning the tables and throwing out the garbage and everything. Turned out he was the owner. He wasn't the guy back and making the sandwiches. He wasn't the guy putting the orders together. He was the guy out there with the customers cleaning the tables. All right? And he always was there to greet you, make sure everything was great. He didn't come across telling you he was the owner. I came to find it out later, But he would also do cool things like show up with a napkin for the table with a cookie under it for the kids and just give them a cookie, like fresh made, they had there and whatever. I mean, he took care of people, especially when he saw them coming back on a regular basis and he knew you. And then he sold it because he was one of these entrepreneurial guys, like he got it to where he wanted to get it, and now he wanted to try something else in life. So he wanted to go start something else. And the guy who bought it ran it into the ground because he thought he knew how to make better sandwiches, and he missed it. That's not why everybody came. I mean, sandwiches can be bad, I suppose, but a sandwich is a sandwich to some degree, but the ambiance and the way you were treated and everything else was what made it so great. And this guy missed the point, bought the thing, and ran it into the ground. And now it's changed owners 2 or 3 times, and I don't know what it is right now, but it was a bakery or something. But it was a great deli. Okay? And he did great business, and he was always full and busy, and everything was great. But it had to do with, like what you were saying, Tom. This guy was the owner, and he came and made sure to greet you, and all that kind of good stuff. My wife and I ate at a restaurant. We went down to Atlanta for some reason. We went to see a show. And actually, it was Fiddler on the Roof. Went to see a live version of Fiddler on the Roof. And we stopped in this little restaurant, to eat some dinner after the show. And at least 3 people came over to ask us if everything was okay, did we need anything? And I believe it was this young lady and this younger guy. I thought they were the owners probably, okay? Because, they were just going around making sure everybody's good. That's showing a passion for your business and making sure everybody's got what they need to do. You need to do that, You need to do that. All right. Were you next, or are you just waiting? Rick? Okay, no, you don't. You're not on the line. Okay. Well, you're sitting there with the mic, or you're just holding the mic. All right. Shamash Rob. Rick's like, I'm putting the mic down. I'm not confusing people. Nothing online? All right. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up with that. I hope that was useful to everybody. And listen, for those of you that heard over the years me talking about Level Up, wondering what that was all about, and I was charging money for that because it was something I did privately. It wasn't a ministry thing. People were wondering if it was worth all that. Now you're hearing people telling you that it was a pretty good class. And now you're getting it for free. The thing is, I want to see if you value it. I charge for it for one reason. If you paid for it, you might value it and do something with it. My sad reality is a lot of you are going to get this thing for free and not do anything with it. Okay, I want you to value it. It's something that, as Mindy said, you start putting it to use, you'll see results pretty quick. Okay, and so just go ahead and use that course. And listen, you've got all of the recordings from all of the times I did it. You've got all of the paperwork that I didn't give you during the feast, but all that stuff's online. You can print it out and use it, so you have all the forms. All right, and just go out there and level everything up. All right, do we have somebody set to close up in prayer? Nope. All right, Shamash Rob, since you're in the back there, let's get the camera back on you. Put your headset on. We'll have you close. No, you don't need the mic. He's going to be back there and do it. He's
All
gonna,
right.
Can
Are
we
we here?
confuse the AV team? There we go.
All
Now,
right,
there
here
you
we
go.
go. Yes. All right. All right. Thank you, Father. Thank you for this day, this Rosh Chodesh, that we get a chance to reflect back on our day, our month, and look forward to the encouragement that Rabbi gives us, that we can do it, that we need to put in the time, that we need to put in the effort, and it will pay off, that we have to trust that it will. And we know that it will because you are there. Rabbi is there. We have so much that's offered to us that there should be no excuse why we can't do this. All right, Father, just watch over everyone that has a reason they couldn't be here, that, for whatever reason, that that there's things that a lot of people are still under the weather. And please watch over everyone that's here as we take some time to fellowship here and then on our way back to the home tonight. And Father, we ask this in your Son's name, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. All right, good. You switch the camera. All right. So if you want to be on camera to do the wave goodbye deal, come on this side. If you don't, go on that side. Kind of an obvious thing. You come up here, girls. There we go. Go on either side. There you go. You don't have all of them running up here like we normally have on Saturdays, so knocking everybody around. All right. So we're going to connect with the live stream family. We want to make sure that we're, letting them know that we're aware they're there. We appreciate them being there, and we want to wish them all a Rosh Chodesh Sameach. Okay? A Shavua Tov, a good week, and tell them that we love them. Here we go. On 3. 1, 2, 3.